Call the meeting to order, 6:30. Roll call.
Mary Hanson.
Here.
Vicki Dewar.
Here.
Mark Ressa.
Here.
Margaret Miller.
Here.
Mel Sandy. Neil Scott. John Sparks.
Here.
Boston.
Present.
I can't see Woods here though, and let's just say present.
All the way back to Ramona the Brat.
Okay, we all received a copy of the minutes. I'm sure you've all had a chance to look them over. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes? Make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Right. Didn't we also discuss, and you guys, I'm sorry, didn't we also discuss in that meeting about the lawsuit, or the gentleman from Lynn Kellum who did the lawsuit?
I just provided you an update in terms of where we were at in terms of violations, so that way if we reached out to you, you had an understanding that you didn't have to respond.
Okay, because it's not in the minutes, and I just wanted.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary.
That's fine. I was just asking the question.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Very good. I'll approve.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Any public comments not related to agenda? Actually, no one's here, so I'm assuming no comment. Okay, moving right along to communications.
None.
And now we're on to general business, which we began with the playscape. And as we see in our packet, we have some diagrams and things to look over.
Yeah. If I could get you to flip through your packet and focus on first the diagram that shows you the layout. It's right before the cost analysis. Mm-hmm. Beginning in December, I reached out to John Cole because he's been an integral part of the playground and play areas and the parks and just having those additional amenities be incorporated in the city. This is outside the scope of what they were intending on doing. The city applied for a grant and was successful for placemaking. And in that grant application, it was to assist with additional, assist with additional funding for the splash pad. And then it was also to remove and replace the playscape playground because of its aging infrastructure. And then it also highlights a warming station that is supposed to be installed in between the pavilion and the ice rink location on the pavilion side part of the playground, the park. And so we were successful. That's $1 million grant. The total project is $1.5 million, a little bit higher than that. And so when I reached out to them, I was really looking for his insight and community buy-in in terms of what does a new play structure look like for our communities that addresses the need for universal design. And while it's a city project, and typically what ends up happening is staff will come up with different items that we feel will address those needs, implement them, bring them forward to the park board or the commission and look for the blessings and move forward with what we have worked on. But this is, in my opinion, a project that is more community related, community focused, and needed some more input than just that. So when I did that, I reached out to John. We had our initial meeting in December, and those on the committee were John Cole, Alexis Hunty, Mackenzie Curry, and Sarah Fuller. And our initial meeting was me sitting with them, explaining to them that their job was primarily to focus on addressing the amenities that would go in the play structure based on what we all felt were focused on universal design ADA accessibility, and how we could meet the needs of the children of all spectrums, not just physically disabled, but also having mental challenges as well. We regrouped later after the new year, and I thought it'd be important to incorporate a park board member, and so I reached out to Foster and asked him if he would join our committee, and he did so, and so he was a part of that process. And so, Foster, if I miss anything, please feel free to chime in.
Okay, I think you're doing great so far.
So what we as a group decided was that we would go out for a survey to the community through social media, primarily through the Hemlock Park Facebook page, and then the city shared it, and then the city's Facebook page shared it as well. And it asked the community members what they would like to see be incorporated in terms of a new playground structure. And so we had about 500 surveys come back, and a lot of good feedback, I think. And we left an open-ended question in there as well, asking if there was something else that they would like to see that wasn't voted on, more or less. It was a click which one you want kind of thing. Do you want to see swings? Do you want to see two-throw? Do you want to see teeter-totters? That kind of stuff. So it was based on both is how we determined what we thought was important to be implemented. Of that, with the open-ended questions, many people focused on how they thought it was important to have a fence around the play structure. You will see in these renderings that there is no fence around the whole entire structure itself, because there is a fence that's already at Playscape right now. You don't notice it because the current structure is very dense. There's a lot of different levels and a lot of different hiding spaces. And so what in many people's minds would think is an important fence feature is what you see at Playscape right now is the different slats that have people's names on them. And so that kind of creates like a blanket, per se, you could say, within the fenced-in area that's already there at the playground. The committee members were very passionate about how they wanted to see a fence be implemented to be put around this play structure. I told them that I'm not going to incorporate it into the rendering itself per se, but I would entertain the idea of putting a line item in the bid spec that would give a contractor the ability to tell us how much it would cost to put a fence around the whole play structure. They seemed okay with that, but it's hard to see change evolve when you don't know what it looks like on site, because the reality of it is that you can't fence off the whole entire park. We have it fenced off from where the drinking fountain starts, alongside the road. It goes alongside the property that is right next to Hemlock Park, and then the fence then goes all the way to the donor circle, which is basically where the pedestrian walk bridge is located. So we would do some cleanup and repairs of any damages that may have happened over time, because that fence has been there for 20-something years, so there would likely be some repairs. But when you see this picture of the concept of the open space, the flow of the park is focused on children having a free area where they can transfer from the splash pad area and make their way over to the playground area, and it's all open concept. So moving forward, in fact, when we put this playground structure in and there is no fence primarily around the walkways, there may be some people that will be a little bit taken back because it's a difference of what it looks like initially to what they're used to for 25 years. But I rest assured, the park itself is safe. And the reality of it is that you can't put a fence alongside the whole entire riverside. If that be the case, then one would argue that we would have to put a fence from where the walk bridge is all the way down the whole entire side of Hemlock Park to the next fishing platform, because then now you have a play structure such as the Flashcott that's located just to the south of the playground that's being proposed before you. So that's why you don't see a fence in these renderings, and I just want to make that clear so that if when somebody in the community sees what's being proposed to move forward, that's the backstory of it. Does that seem accurate, Foster?
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is that as a Playscape committee member, I did not share the strength of concern for effects that was met with the community.
Correct. I would say that that's accurate.
Will the fence continue to exist that is along Mitchell Creek?
Yes.
That's what she was saying.
Yeah.
It goes from
That's in-
the western edge of the park along the creek toward the pedestrian bridge, right? So it's kind of like V-shaped.
Yes.
Is there a fence around the splash pad, between the splash pad and the river?
No. There is no fence around North End Riverside Park playground. There is no fence around the library park playground. The only fence that exists around a playground is at Linden Street Park, a local neighborhood park, which I presume many of you probably haven't visited recently.
Well, I guess I'm just asking because of the river. I mean, I understand because
Sure.
of I'm asking because of the river. So,
Yeah, so it is fenced off to deter any activity on Mitchell Creek between the playground and the creek.
right, but not the river.
Correct.
I could see potentially, like, in the future that we might incorporate some kind of, like, concrete benches that would serve as, like, an area that parents could sit on to watch their kids. They could also kind of function as, like, a sort of barrier.
That's at the place that is
Right.
incorporated in the splash pad.
Yeah, so it's like, I can see that, like, even though we might not have a fence completely closing it off, that through some of the functional features that get built in, especially like over time, where somebody says, it'd be really nice if we had whatever, and it's like, okay, it's like $5,000, but we can achieve that. But that would help keep kids contained from running toward the river.
Right, right now.
Not that I really see that happening that much, but
Well, right now, you want it open between Playscape and Splash Pad.
yeah.
And you've got it artificially fenced, or however you want to call it, the fence. You've got them contained so they can't go into the road.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't have them contained so they can't get in the river.
Right.
And the creek, you got them contained in the creek.
Yeah.
But, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the part that faces the river, there can be other structures
And she said that there's
could
some
be
stuff with
that could be built up over time additionally to help.
What he's talking about is like a seating wall is going to be incorporated in the splash pad.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
So there is sort of what you're talking about already.
Yeah, and that can continue if, you know, we feel like there's a need to further break spaces up without actually making a gate that you have to pass through.
What were the reasons that they gave that wanted a fence in the area in Playscape?
There was no reasoning
It was-
that was there.
It was concern over safety. They were concerned that kids could run into the river. Three-year-old toddler.
Could get,
Especially,
break away and get
It only takes a second to turn your back and
Right.
especially when gone. You know, some of them are speaking from the perspective of like child care services, where they could say, oh, we want to bring like 10 kids down to the Playscape, and I can't keep an eye on all of them, but if they're in a fenced-in area, then so long as I keep an eye on the fence, the gate of the fence, I won't lose any. Well, it's like, okay, I understand that. Don't
Well, I
bring
can
10 kids
understand
to the
what
Playscape.
I can understand what she's saying
Yeah.
about the library doesn't have, I mean,
Yeah,
okay,
it gets
it's a
difficult.
little bit different environment. Because if I've got a 3-year-old and I'm going from Playscape to running over to Splash Pad, I mean, it's a little bit different.
Well,
Yeah, like Hemlock Park's been safer.
too, it can't all fall on the.
Hemlock Park is even safer to you than the library park.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the opposite because of the river.
Yeah, but the
I worry about
river
the
is
river.
like 300 feet from the playground,
But it won't be. as
whereas
big
the
as
playground at the library is like 30 feet
No,
from the
you're
road
absolutely right.
with Ferris
Right.
students.
Right.
North
crap.
End, may I remind you that North End Riverside Park has a playground that's located even closer to the river.
Yeah.
And it's never been touched.
Yeah. And then there's like a concrete wall that kind of,
Well,
goes around a lot of it, and you can sit on it, but, 3-year-olds aren't gonna run over the wall, they're gonna have to climb over it.
And I think as a contingency, a barrier would be expedient. I mean, it'd be like the next day we could put up something if indeed we're getting feedback from parents and saying, hey, listen, we grabbed 3 toddlers that were on the brink of jumping in or got away from us or whatever. We're really concerned. We could regroup quickly, I think. But a chain link fence or something like that would be a contingency plan until we come up with a permanent. But I think I like the concept, especially the open one. It would be kind of cool to have picnic tables in between the two, or have kind of like the central area, the play space, and it'd be nice.
let me walk you through the plan
Okay.
in place. So again, we're going to look at this diagram in the back part of the packet first. And this shows you the layout of what's being proposed to be installed. Now, the gentleman, Thomas, is his name, who was a part of our meeting. He's a representative from Sinclair Recreation, and he was the individual that put this together for us. This doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to get the job. It just means that he worked with us to come up with what would be an appropriate layout.
What was his name again?
Thomas.
Last name Thomas, or first name?
That's his first name. He works for Sinclair Recreation. So I wish I had the whole park layout for you, but this large circle encompasses the whole area of what you see at Playscape right now. And the other circles with the swing set and then the 2 to 5, which is the other smaller circle off to the side of it, are additional spaces outside of what you see as the footprint of Playscape right now. And so what I would end up doing more than likely is after it is installed, we would probably look at locations in between where the play structure ends to where the fenced area is, which would be green space, and more than likely add additional seating areas. So that way you have spots in green space in between the playground and the creek where parents or other individuals could have a seating area if they felt like they needed to have like the picture from Playscape out to the splash pad itself and not be directly at the playground itself if it's too busy or something along those lines. So that's what we were proposing.
Orient myself a little bit.
Sure.
This circle here, I see the sidewalks coming in.
Are you talking about the large one? When you say this circle?
Yeah.
Are you talking about this
Yeah.
one? Okay.
So these are sidewalks coming that are existing, the
No.
ones on the right-hand side?
No. So right here, this is the walkway that will take you up from the road
For the
itself.
parking lot, like you're going towards
Yep.
the bridge?
Yep.
Okay.
And then this sidewalk will go in conjunction to connect to the splash pad.
Okay.
And then this sidewalk will take you up towards the donor circle.
Okay, got it, got it, got it, okay. So,
And then this is all sidewalk that will be around the structure because we are going to have poured in place. It's not going to have the engineered wood fiber. It's going to be the material similar to what you see at the fitness park right now, nearby River Street or Riverview Elementary. And so that will be in this circle, and this circle.
Okay.
Okay?
thank you.
Now, if you wouldn't mind flipping to the front of the packet, I can go through the concept and give you a little bit of better explanation as to what you're doing. As a committee, we decided that it was important to incorporate shade because all of the trees that you see planted around Playscape are going to be removed. And I'll be working with the Garden Club and the GFWC. They're the ones that have been planting, maintaining, and implementing additional plants over the course of the 25 plus years that Playscape has been there. So that communication will take place over the course of the summertime, and we'll figure out if there's a way that we can salvage and repurpose any of those plantings whether that be in the park itself or at another location. So that part is not managed yet, but will be soon. And so knowing that all of that plantings are going to be removed, and everyone knows that a playground can be quite hot, we thought it'd be important to incorporate shade. So what you see here right now, that's way I can describe it, is you have a play structure that wheelchair-bound individual can come onto, and they can get into the center of the play area. And we worked with Thomas to have it be a functional playground where it's continuous, rather than going to the end of the structure and then they stop at a dead end. So it now makes a circle, and then you find continuous play. And incorporated in there, you have 3 different shaded areas. Those will have to be taken down in the winter time, just for maintenance purposes. The smaller circle is your 2 to 5 area, your toddler area. And when it was supposed to initially, it did not have a shade structure on there, and so that was incorporated on there as well. Off to the other side is your bubble with the swing sets themselves. And when you flip through the packet, you'll see that the swings are a variety of different types of uses. And I'll be happy to go through those as well. And then the committee wanted to see different apparatuses be incorporated to meet the needs of what was called out in the survey. So this particular play item is more focused towards an individual or child or whomever that wants to have a quiet space. And so that will give them an ability to leave an active area and have themselves in a secluded location. A lot of climbing structures have been implemented in here. And that's what you see on both these sides, and then they wanted to see a lot of slides.
I think climbing was like one of the number one.
Yeah, climbing was a
survey
big thing.
responses.
And I'll send you guys that survey so you can see it.
Heather?
Yeah.
Was there anything in the survey about a zip line? A mini zip line? Boy, those are so popular.
I don't recall. I do remember we talked a little bit about a zip line, but
A kiddie zip line. you
yeah.
know? It's almost like handlebars on a bike,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know the run is only 100 feet, and they have a blast.
I'll send you guys that survey so you can look through it. But I do recall us having a conversation about a zip line, but it did not get implemented.
Okay.
So your second page gives you a ground level focus as to what you're going to see when you walk through the playground itself. This is the 5 to 12 range age period. The apparatus right here that you see, that is it rocks back and forth, so an individual in a wheelchair can get in it and play with other children that may not necessarily be in a wheelchair. Moving on to the next page, you'll see one of the smaller play apparatuses that was set in between the 2 and 5 and the 5 and 12. That has a lot of climbing features. It has a slide. These ones that are off to the side that are not the main play structures are going to be alternate within the big spec, so that if they come back where it doesn't meet the budget needs, it may not make the cut. So we've made that known to the committee when we were talking through what the final look would look like.
This one's definitely my favorite of the external structures. It just looks so neat because there's so many different things going on. Like when I was a kid, it's like, here's a dome of metal rods that you can climb up. And it's kind of like, that doesn't even seem safe. And there's nothing to do.
Fun, right?
There's nothing to do when you get there.
Right.
You know, but like this, it's like, oh man, like there's a platform in there, there's a slide, like there's different types of climbing.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. The next page is another side angle, another climbing feature. It's kind of like a monkey bar little thing, and then the climbing was like one of the big things that we got back from the survey.
Yeah.
The following page is the swing sets. So you'll see that there are 3 regular swings, and then they have a handicap accessible swing that an individual will be buckled down basically into the swing. The one with the green swing on it, that's a toddler swing where a parent can sit on the other side and swing with their toddler. And then the final one is another two-throw swing that anyone wheelchair bound can use. The next page, you'll see the 2 to 5 play structure that was in its own circle by itself, and so it's very typical for those 2 play areas to be separated rather than tied together. And it's I like that at Playscape, but because it's so dense and on top of each other in such a small area, it doesn't seem like it's separate in its own way. The next page is teeter-totter, basically, is what you see, where 4 people can be on it. And then it's the backside of the play structure that fosters. And then the next page is a overview of what it looks like from the back. And then your diagram is related to layout. And then if you flip through, you'll see he had provided us a budget calling out what all the costs would be for the play structure along with installation. And if we were to award this particular company, they will give a discount. And so you're looking at a total of $682,000. And that's right within target.
It was within target?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So you were asking about those polls, and the Playscape committee actually saw 3 different plans. One of them was the most handicap accessible. One of them was kind of in the middle, and one of them was the least, was like the highest power and slide. The committee liked the second one the best, but we wanted to see a little bit more range for handicap, because that was a little bit more of like a straight shot, whereas in the first one, it really let kids go around no matter who you were, what, so in that second one, there were a series of polls that were similar, but the committee had concerns that the polls were like too high, I think.
Yeah.
And so they dropped those and replaced them with the polls that you see, which I guess are lower.
Yeah.
But
it's really funny because when you look at them from this standpoint,
Yeah.
they just look like they're a bunch of dumb stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was why I was trying to figure out.
what they were.
Was there any concern, looking at this, my first concern is you don't have enough swings.
We did talk about that. And I don't recall exactly what Tom said, but he felt as though, like, given the ratio of number of kids that could be playing and everything, he felt like it was comfortable enough.
And I also asked about, like total capacity, right? Like,
For the whole park?
well, for the play
Yeah.
area, right? Like you go to a restaurant, like maximum 83 people.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, it's like, what's our current maximum capacity for the Playscape? And there's no way for them to know that. But like, is this Playscape going to be significantly smaller in terms of capacity or larger? And I think the numbers in the description on the left-hand side are the capacity for each piece of equipment. So most of them is 1, but some of them is like 6. I could be reading it wrong. Can you speak to that, Heather?
So those are parts.
I think they're just parts.
Yeah,
Those
those
are
are
parts.
just the part
That's the
numbers.
quantity of parts.
It said in the email that he had provided a capacity for each. But I
I'll
didn't,
have to do follow-up on that.
but I didn't
one,
see it, so I don't know if that's it or not.
Is there
Well, it's on the sketch. If you look at the right-hand top, it says the 5 to 12 area capacity 175 to 200.
Oh, there you
It
go.
also
Great,
says
thank you.
the swing capacity is 8, and the 2 to 5 capacity is 15 to 25.
Oh, okay. That's all right. Good deal.
Well, I think those sound
So
like pretty.
they're saying 210 to 235 for the total.
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
park
I see.
capacity.
You'll never see
Well,
that.
and at that point, my point is that is really true, the capacity, those swings aren't enough.
The swings will take away, part of our conversation, Vicki, is that I don't disagree with you. I think that there could always be more swings.
Yeah.
Yep. But they're expensive.
I'm sure.
So the focus of the committee, based off of the survey, was to see how much more play structure they can add to the park itself.
Right, but there is no place to add additional swings later if you want because of the structure, because of the layout.
Not necessarily. You could always add another bubble.
Yeah.
Right, you'd have to add another bubble. Right, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's been a lot of times I've been to the park and the swings aren't getting utilized at all. You know,
It's hit or miss.
you
It
know,
really is.
I think it just depends.
Yeah.
So, team, if you're looking at the overall price here, okay, comments, did you read the comments? Does not include anything other than the equipment. Doesn't include the concrete walkways, doesn't include flat work,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So
That's why this number is right on target where we need to be, because we have $1 million for play.
for that.
Yeah. So the remaining funds will
Support
go towards
infrastructure.
engineering. It'll go towards the flat work. It'll go
Okay.
towards the concrete. Yeah, we need, and then we need contingencies as well, because
Okay.
everything costs more than what you expect when you get into a project.
How is this paid for? How's the 682 paid for?
Through the grant.
Okay, so we got the grant,
Yeah.
and then we have 1.5 on top of that.
No. So the grant was written for $1.5 million because we have a match through the splash pad. So the city's already committed funds through the splash pad and has half of those costs covered by the DNR land and water. And then there's a little bit of wiggle room there for our warming station.
And so that's going to pay for this too.
It'll pay for the play structure, it'll pay for the warming section, it'll pay for the concrete and everything you see around here, and then engineering fees.
I think that the construction will be a partnership between Sinclair and a contractor, right? So the contractor will come in, they'll do like concrete work, whatever needs to happen, and then Sinclair will come in and install their equipment on top of the
That is accurate.
contractors.
It's similar to what you saw with Steve Jones Construction. That was a passport grant for the library park. And we went out to bid, and we had a specific playground structure that the library board agreed upon. Some of you might have been
Yeah, I remember.
here when we went to the library park and we walked through and did the final design, and everybody was on board with that. We implemented that into the bid, and then Steve Jones Construction was the low bidder. They reached out to the playground manufacturer, figured out how much it was going to cost for them to purchase the playground equipment. Then Steve Jones Construction handled all of the parts, getting it prepped, ready to go, getting contractors assigned to handle the landscaping and everything outside of what they normally do.
And then okay, let's say all of it's $1 million. Okay. What kind of money are we going to need annually to maintain it?
So
And how are we
maintenance
going to do that?
Maintenance costs are very minimal initially. There will be some due diligence on my staff's end where we have to make sure every few years we shop back or hydro back, whatever you want to call it, the board in place, because over time debris will fall in there and then it won't drain out properly. So that's a maintenance part on our end that we'll have to keep up. It's going to be a metal structure, so the wear and tear on it will be basically just making sure that we do what the manufacturer recommends so it doesn't rust. And in terms of long term, if a piece of equipment needs to be ordered and repaired, that's beyond what our city maintenance budget allows for. Playscape already has a fund that was created by the original grassroots groups that created Playscape, and the city has those monies. I believe there's approximately between $18,000 to $22,000 in there right now. I've been working with Roger Schmidt, who was on that original committee, and we are keeping it in the fund where it's at right now. Tim and I have had conversations where that could be an opportune time, should John Coles decide that he wants to do what he had mentioned when he came here the last time before you all, and he wanted to fundraise and name the playground after a certain individual and have a pot of funds. And so if he does that, we could replace the current Playscape fund and implement a historical kind of piece to be put into Hemlock Park with the Playscape money that already exists, and then replenish it with the new Playscape money, if that makes sense. But right now we're sitting fine in terms of if we had to figure out maintenance.
Yeah, I think the metal, like 10 plus years before it needs to be painted.
I don't have a handle on it because we just
That
installed a new one at Linden Street, and then
Yeah.
we just installed the new one at Library Park, the one at North End Park. That one's a metal one and plastic, and that's been there since that was phase one of Riverwalk, which was 2000-ish, and I haven't had to do anything maintenance.
No, I'm just thinking too,
Like-
it's just
Yeah.
normal wear and tear and things, and it doesn't have to, it could be the fence, it could be,
Well, I mean, it's like the Playscape we have now, you know?
exactly.
Like, stuff wears out.
Right.
But I think that the metal has a really long lifespan.
Well, and I know that the
And as a painter, I'd be surprised if the powder coating that they put on there didn't hold up for at least 10 years. I think the two biggest components that are the maintenance issues are, like Heather said, the poured in place, which I think has a lifespan of, I think they've said it varies depending on like the environment, where sometimes it only lasts like a year or two, but in our environment, the biggest issue is going to be sand getting in there, and so long as we keep up on vacuuming it out, it should last like 5 to 10 years. And that's something that isn't insane to replace after 5 to 10 years in terms of cost. And I think the second thing would be the shade awnings, which I think he said are made out of like a nylon or something. Mm-hmm. I would give those maybe like 4 or 5 years, but my hunch is that replacing them is going to cost us $50,000,
right.
You know, or something like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like, you know, a couple hundred.
Well, and we used to have to do all the mulch and stuff at the old place.
Right.
You know what I mean, every year, so there was always.
So I think this is actually going to be a lot more efficient in terms of maintenance.
Oh, sure.
And a lot more durable, which I think is pretty exciting.
I would concur with those comments.
Who is removing the old Playscape?
So I will probably, my plan is to implement into the bid that whoever the contractor is that is awarded the installation, they will be responsible for removing the old Playscape.
You reached out to any, I'm making this up as I say, so, schools or church groups or anything else that might want to dismantle it and put it on their site?
No.
I think that would be a liability.
Right. We've deemed that it's hit its age.
I'm sorry.
We've deemed that it's hit its age, that it shouldn't be reused, so it will literally be thrown away. Unless the contractor wants to use money.
I'd put it in, the contractor's gonna trash it, he's gonna fly it.
Yeah.
I'd put it out to a bidder, just because that's salvageable lumber that
Yeah, it is.
somebody's gonna use. Highest bidder gets take it, dismantle it, take it away. That's how I'd get rid of that. I wouldn't do it with
What would you
contractors.
use the lumber for?
I don't know, 1,001 things.
I mean, I'm guessing it's pressure treated wood, so you can't burn it.
Right.
No, but
You also
can-
can't just like throw it away anywhere because
People get creative with that.
Yeah.
They get very creative with that.
Yeah, there's actually a market for used wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's usually like.
Well, that'd be a nice dock. That'd be good for a dock.
Oh, excellent for a dock.
For a dock.
I've seen people
Anyway.
buying old decks.
I'd
Crazy, they
I'd
fight over the
go
old
highest
deck
bidder.
lumber.
I think you get more.
Worth and
That's
they
why
want it.
it's crazy.
I know.
I just think that you might be able to get some funds out of it, like you said, a dock, a deck, or anything like that. People might.
It's serviceable wood. All they gotta do is go zip, 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 and you got a nice little plank that's pressure treated, slightly used. Anyways.
Yeah, we're
All right.
considering.
there's an awful lot of liability for
Not walking away with a plane.
with, well,
They waive it, sign a waiver, it's yours, take it away. That's what I would do.
So yeah, I'll be
All right.
bringing
Something.
forward to you guys our next step, but really, if you guys are comfortable with this concept, I would appreciate a recommendation to accept the current layout, and we would move forward with putting out a bid spec with this particular playground.
I would move that motion, but I would also go with what Mark said in making it, trying to put bids out, trying to see if somebody wants the wood.
I will defer to the city attorney and before I do something like that.
I understand,
Based on the
but I would like it looked into more. I can understand why you're saying. But I guess I moved it.
You did a move, she did a second.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
So then you have to ask if there's further discussion.
Okay,
and then
so,
vote.
and I actually have a little further discussion. And you stated that, Sinclair doesn't necessarily get this bid.
Correct.
Do you have other quotes for this, or is this the first one?
This is the only one that we're working off of. So what the process would be is that they've provided us the list of specific equipment, and we would incorporate that into our bid, and then those said companies that are interested in providing us a bid to whoever contractor is interested in doing this type of work would have to meet these specifications.
Okay.
So it opens it up to, there's a recreation playground place that we got, Linden Street, that was out of Grand Rapids. These individuals, I believe, are out of Holland. There's, a number of different ones. Game Time is a name that is universal. I mean, anybody can get their hands on it. So if they can get the price down cheaper, that's who we're going to go with.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. Those
In favor.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'll get after it.
When do you expect the bid process will go out, and how long does it take? And this is a side comment, I don't.
Yeah, no, to put the bid spec out, we have to first have our final paperwork and documentation signed through the grant itself. We're still trying to meet all of their needs in terms of SHPO and everything that they require because it's grant related through the state. Once we get that documentation finalized, then they'll give us a notice to proceed. Once we receive the notice to proceed, we can then put the bid out. So in the interim, we'll be working on the specific bid spec and what that document will be like, and hopefully as soon as we get the go ahead, we can throw it out on the street and send it out to everybody. In the dream world, that would happen probably in the next 2 months, but they told us we had the grant unofficially in like November. Then we were able to make notifications by the end of the past calendar year through the city commission because they announced it. And so it's just working with grant funding takes longer than you would anticipate. I would really like to see this particular project be completed by the end of the fall this year.
Isn't there like some kind of contingency with the grant money too, that it gets like we lose the grant money if it's too long or something?
You could, but I mean, we just have to be very conscientious and apply for extensions if needed.
Okay, maybe I'm just remembering something else.
A lot of grants say that they have to be completed by a certain date, but they have processes available because everything since COVID has had such extreme lead times and supply issues that they've been very forgiving with projects being delayed.
Yeah, I just think that the idea behind this is that it happens this year. It's
We're going to
not,
have it at the same time as PlayStation, so, I mean, the splash pad's going up.
Ideally, yes. And if we could get both bids out at the same time as one big bid package, that'd be a perfect project for one contractor to focus on one area.
Correct. Yeah.
But the timelines may not work out.
You mentioned some of the trees to be removed that are around Playscape.
Yes.
Are we losing any of the huge trees that Hemlock Park has today?
Where at in specific, around Playscape along the creek?
There's a number, I don't know what those trees are. Purple, but they're massive. They've got to be 10 feet around.
The cottonwoods.
Cottonwood.
So there's the one cottonwood that is near the donor circle that shouldn't be impacted. And then there's another large, I believe a willow tree that's to the south of the pavilion. Just because of the age of that particular tree and the fact that it keeps on snapping, and a huge limb snapped just a couple of weeks ago when we had the ice storm. It's becoming more of a hazard than anything else, so that one may come down, if not this fall, then next fall. But that's not because of the project. It's just because it's an aged tree and it's starting to deteriorate. All the other trees in Hemlock Park, I don't believe, other than maintenance purposes, that would be the only reason why they would be eliminated.
We're not clear cutting.
No.
Okay.
No.
There's some wonderful, very large trees.
Yeah.
In the park.
Unfortunately, due to progress of utility improvements and parkland itself, it's a lot of heavy machinery and it's a lot of digging in the ground, right? We just had the huge utility project that went through there, the sewer main, where we increased the size. And unfortunately, because of the amount of earthwork that they did to get into the park and through the park, the two crabapple trees that were right by the parking lot, they died. So we removed those just recently. Yeah. They'll probably get replanted, but I'm going to wait until the next construction crew goes in because I don't want to replant another couple trees. Yeah, unfortunately, with heavy machinery, that's just what happens.
Okay, citizen recognition.
So, to remind you all, I'm looking for you to come into an agreement and a recommendation as to who you would like to see be awarded the Citizen Recognition Award. I'm having public speaking tonight, I apologize. So, to remind you, it is a group of people or an individual that were not receiving compensation from the city to focus primarily on either providing a recreation program, beautification towards the park, or a project towards the park, a park, I should say. And it can be one individual, it can be an organization, an individual, it can be two. It's been a combination of whomever you feel needs that, should have that recognition for the year of 2022. So you're looking at last year. Now, last spring, we agreed that Richard Spadowski should be recognized, which he was, for his dedication towards the ice rink and his volunteer time in making sure that that was available through the community. He was a firefighter, as we all know, and he did a lot of the work on the ice rink by himself, and he just was really passionate about seeing that happen. About the ball fields, everything else like that. We planted a tree for him near the soccer field, right across the street from his house. And his wife picked out the species of tree, and she just loved it. We talked about Mr. Mayor Tom Hoganson as an individual to receive recognition. He was a major component of the fitness park being implemented, and he was very passionate about the park system, namely the Riverwalk itself, who's always in favor of any kind of quality of life that can be emphasized for the residents. A huge advocate of the pool, who's just really big into quality of life for the residents. Our last meeting, we briefly spoke about an individual who recently passed away. He dedicated much of his time and resources towards the Big Rapids Softball Association. His name's Lee Barrington. And that recommendation came from Mr. Bretta. And we have briefly talked about the Hemlock Park Committee at this very discussion last year. And the way that discussion led to was it seemed appropriate to recognize them when the project was complete. They haven't achieved that yet, but they are obviously somebody that you're welcome to recommend. And so I'll leave it to the rest of you to discuss.
All right. I lose track of time. When did we do the Veterans Park?
The Veterans Park was completed, a number of years ago.
But then we redid it just recently.
No.
Yeah.
It was before we had a dedication.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
that's
That's
Yeah.
fine.
You're good.
Okay.
I would throw Leonard Johnson's name out as someone who would be deserving of citizen recognition eventually.
So
Oh, he's already been recognized though.
I think
No, seriously, yeah,
Oh,
no,
really?
2006.
Oh, good.
I
Well,
think,
yeah, him and the Big Rapids Garden Club in 2006.
is that when the disc golf course was
He is,
implemented?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well, he's done a lot.
I know. You're right.
And like last summer, when he got the mower, he literally made his schedule. He wakes up, he walks the dog, he goes into town, he gets on the mower, he mows for like 3 hours, goes to lunch, goes home. He did that every single day. And his plan is to keep doing that. Like completely unpaid, but he's paying for the gas. And, they're mowing, but that's a lot of mowing. Not to mention like the tools he bought and the trimming, the maintenance, the course, the expansion, the 36 holes, his work with the Ferris disc golf team, making Big Rapids known for disc golf, and students are actually looking at Ferris as like, I want to go to the school where I can play good disc golf. Like, it's a lot.
Well, I'm all for that if someone keeps doing,
Yeah.
I mean, just because he's won back in 2006 doesn't mean that he can't win again, be recognized again. I don't think once you're recognized, you don't be recognized again. I disagree with that. Very.
I'm just glancing over the list. The Big Rapids Garden Club is the only group I see that has been recognized twice. I presume
Well, I
that's
see the
because
Leslie Daniels family too. Because Leslie Daniels was done in 18, but you would also see it in 96.
96 was when Playscape went out.
Right.
So that would have been the Playscape group itself.
Yeah.
They just called them out individually.
Yeah.
What years is Lee that you know of? Has Lee been part of the softball association?
I honestly, if Josh were here, I would defer to him. I don't have a handle on that. I mean, I've worked for the city for
Well, there's no
11
reason why,
years, and he was always the person.
There's no reason why we can't do both.
Well,
Can't do Tom Wilkinson and Lee.
Well, they're going to have a softball tournament here for Bill Beckman, it ties into Lee Arrington too being, in charge of the softball association. So it might be kind of a twofer, recognizing Bill Beckwith, but also at that time presenting it would go there with that Lee Arrington recognition at that same time. I don't know.
You guys want?
I don't know. So, quantity, quality, longevity, what are other attributes for citizen?
This citizen recognition, is it for the year?
Correct. It's acknowledging their contributions primarily in the year of 2021, 22 kind of time frame. We kind of just watch like the last few years. I mean, you don't want to recognize somebody that did something 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Right.
Unless they just died.
Right.
Then it's
And the same token, you also don't want it to always just be people that died that make it the list too, right?
like, oh no, I made the list.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so we get all done with so many of these projects that we have in play right now. We'll be recognizing John Cole,
Yeah.
but we've got some projects to finish first.
Mm-hmm.
But right,
Is Leonard retired?
He is. He retired last year.
And so he lives out by there?
No. He actually lives like out by like past Happy.
What, he has a mower on a trailer that he brings?
There's a shed on at North End Park that holds the mower.
Okay.
And it's locked up at night. We'll get locked up all the time. He's got a key. He doesn't ship it.
And between 2000 and, he's a great guy, I love Leonard. 2006 and now, gee, repeat, that's 2.5 years,
We're coming up on 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
He's expanded. So in 2006, what did that look like down there?
There were
9 holes, 18
There were 18 holes with concrete tee pads on all of the long tees and toe boards, which is a 4x4 in the ground for the short tees. Now there are 36 total holes. All of them have short and long tees. All of those tees are concrete. There were originally 36 4x4 wooden signposts. Mm-hmm. Those have all been replaced with nice metal signposts with colored graphics. And then the new course also has that. So there were 36 signs. Now there's 72 signs. And they're all locked. Which Leonard paid to have powder coated out of pocket, but the city paid for the materials and the MOISD made them.
And they hosted tournaments. You guys have hosted tournaments?
Numerous.
Collegiate tournament?
No. There have been collegiate events there. The way that, like, I don't have a super firm grasp on it because it is mostly collegiate stuff. But there are, like, collegiate invitationals that typically happen throughout, like, the collegiate season leading up to the national championship. And so, like, a team from, like, Deerfield and maybe, like, Western or some other college putting a team together will all compete at North End, and then a month later they'll go to CMU and they'll compete there, or, and so there's a number of different kind of, but they're mostly, like, just aimed at college players. Like, you can't show up and play, like, publicly.
And how many national championships does Ferris have?
The men's team have 3 and the women's team have 1.
National championship.
Mm-hmm.
Open division, D1, D2, D3. It's just
they've beaten all the other schools
all the
in the entire country.
In the entire country. Yeah. So my vote's for Leonard. Lee's probably been very, contributional. We just don't have the. I think the narrative here is to say. I don't know.
Is there something on the Lee side that the 2 gentlemen that were in that wanted to with Bill Beckwith, softball, and maybe sort of incorporate Lee into it or not?
No, I think Lee was just the coordinator of the league.
Okay.
And so they just use that as their platform to have a tournament, But, I think Lee has some help too.
Oh yeah, there was a board.
There's a board and everything like that. Leonard pretty much. Yeah, he's the man. Did you guys have a board, or did he have like a partner, or?
Him and me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we get volunteers, but like, you say, hey, we're doing work at the course this Saturday. It's like, Leonard's like, I will buy lunch for anyone that comes. And one person shows up, other than him. They have to leave after 2 hours.
Would we include you in this?
I'm too young.
No.
I had John Coles for a teacher at high school.
I think as far as skin in the game, Leonard, I don't think we can. I think that's a very worthy, very worthy selection there. I don't know, John. What's your thoughts? I don't know.
A man that spent his entire life working on Big Rapids, more than its parks, and was, past mayor, Hoganson, that literally, gave himself to public service as not only a mayor, but what he means to the parks, the playscape, just everything encompassed. However, if this comes down to, it's just one person.
It does not have to be just one person.
And I like I said, I like throwing Leonard's name out there, but I think he's going to continue to work on this golf course next year and for, I hope, many more years to come. So it's certainly not like depressing. I was just throwing the name out.
I like that.
He's done a lot, and
well, maybe we do both.
I was under the impression that it was just one.
No,
yeah.
There's been years where there's been more than one individual.
But these would be more than one individuals with different.
Correct. So you have Betty Harding and Rex Stuberg in 2005. I could bet money they didn't do a project together. I'm just saying. So.
Leonard Johnson with the Big Rapids Garden Club, did the Garden Club help with?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. No.
Right, so like I said, it doesn't have to be this one.
And the Leonard Johnson is disc golf in Big Rapids. It starts and ends there.
Yep, he's the godfather of disc golf in Big Rapids.
Absolutely.
They have to do two.
What's there? Three selections. Go 1, 2, and 3, and golf scores. Whoever has the lowest score.
I move that we do two. I move that we move two people forward. One is Tom Hoganson, one is Leonard Johnson.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Well, Mark, you say aye or.
Listen, I'll text you guys later, okay?
Because you think you might come up with another name.
No, golly, I think I don't know, further discussion. I think Leonard needs his own spotlight. I don't know.
You're allowed to vote no.
It was pretty quick. I mean, I'd be willing to say that, you maybe weren't ready to be put on the spot for further discussion before we voted. It sounds like you're saying you want further discussion.
That's what I hear as well.
Yeah, that's what I hear too. Yeah, let's go further discussion.
Yeah, I'd like further. Tom was recognized as a public servant. This is a parks thing, and I just, gosh, talk about somebody that, picture him being like the gentleman that goes up and down the streets here in Big Rapids, with the John Deere, that the angel of the sidewalks there, he's always there, and he's full in, and he doesn't ask for anything in return. He gives everything. All right. I think Tom has been recognized by our city. He got quite a few accolades as he was leaving, as mayor. So, and he contributed to the parks by the gavel. All right. I'm sure he was in the parks, but nothing like the blisters and the you know, the ticks and the smell of combusted, gasoline and all of that.
Buying tools out of pocket.
That's Leonard.
Paying for
That's
concrete out of pocket. Like renting Bobcat out of pocket. Powder coating signs out of pocket. That's like, yeah.
We share, and then we want to share Leonard once again with somebody else. We did one time in 2006. We want to share him again. Anyways.
So, I mean, I think that, like I said,
I don't agree.
This year doesn't have to be Leonard Johnson. Like, I'd be totally, like, I put his name out there because I think he's deserving, but.
The problem is we get to that point where we stack up stuff.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Because next year we got Playscape all done. Now what do you do? Do you wait to do Playscape a year, or do you wait for Leonard for a year? Do you know what I mean?
Like I said, I mean, I hope that Leonard's going to be out there working on the course for many years to come. You don't know, but he's getting up there. Mm-hmm. But, like, I mean, you know.
So, if I may, just glancing at my calendar, the way that an individual or group is recognized by the city commission is they receive notification from the park board that they've made the recommendation, and then I will put together a certificate and present the notification to the said individual to ask them if they would be available to come to the city commission meeting for the last one in April, which is scheduled for April 17th. And you have a meeting on April 13th. If you prefer, we can table the discussion, and that gives me literally a day to notify whomever that they're going to be recognized at the city commission on the 17th. It's not impossible. I've done it before. It's just if they're not available, they're not available. I'm just throwing that out there.
How about we reply to Heather 1-2. What's her one pick? What's her two choices?
I don't know. I'm convinced. I like what Mark had to say and rationale and reasoning.
Okay, so then.
And I suppose I would I would motion that Leonard Johnson.
Well, first of all, we have a motion on the floor for two. That it was second. So we have to vote that down, then put another motion on the floor.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. So if the motion is to put both Tom and Leonard on the floor, so we can go for vote, and if it's voted down, then we can go again.
Can't we amend the motion?
I can. Can I do that?
Yeah, it didn't get passed. So she said a point.
Yeah.
It didn't get passed.
No, but there is a motion, though.
But it wasn't passed.
Yeah, we kind of just
Was at point.
We backed up.
At that point, we sort of did, except Mark, Kim, and Howard. So that's why we stopped.
Right, so she never said motion all passed.
Right.
It wasn't.
So can I rescind the motion then?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have to write the motion down because it's not a motion.
Okay, so I'm going to rescind the motion. And I'm going to move that we put Leonard Johnson in as the of the year.
I'll second that.
Does that help? Didn't go through.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Hey, let's get the right guard.
We can do a timer on the further discussion.
You have
to have like
jinx it every time.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Alright, so what will happen from here is I will draw up a letter notifying Leonard that he was nominated and selected. Explain to him when the commission meeting will take place, which is the 17th of April. He'll receive his certificate of award at that time. And then come later this year in the fall, I'll work with Leonard to allow him to choose the species of tree and select where he would like it planted. Neat discussion, we know where it's going to go, though.
It's going to be like way out on the
Where he wants the tree. So later, yeah.
It's funny because somebody will hit a tree and I'll be like, Leonard planted that tree.
Will he get like a plaque to put next to the tree? I mean, kind of like.
If he wants one, yeah.
it needs to be an obstacle right in the middle of, Diablo, that one hole that's Diablo.
Yeah.
The devil hole,
I don't know this individual, but he sounds amazing, and I actually have friends that come from Lakeview to play up here at our disc golf course, and say it's really awesome, so that's really neat. It's bringing people from other areas to our area.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And we're going to continue working on it. And it's crazy. A course will get a bad reputation really quickly because it's not mowed for a month or something. But on the flip, it also can gain a really strong reputation really quickly just because people know what the conditions are like. And when people are like, yeah, I played there 3 times, and every time it was awesome. There's a course that's really well known. It used to be the #1 course in the country called Flip City. It's in the middle of nowhere, about an hour and a half from here. But one of the things it's really known for is it's on private property, and the guy just does incredible maintenance work. And so people flock there to the middle of nowhere to play this disc golf course because it's such a cool experience. It's losing its placement now that people are putting lots of money into disc golf courses and stuff, but it's still kind of almost like a mecca for disc golf from all over the country. So I hope that our course can gain that kind of reputation and just keep drawing more and more people here.
Okay, trust fund grant.
That actually needs to be stricken from general business. We're not moving forward with that this year. We are doing this passport grant that was brought before you to make the motion in your meeting minutes that was just approved. So that's pertaining to the state part. So we are set for general business.
Okay, and staff report.
No.
Can I ask about how the staffing is going for the pool? Have they started?
I haven't heard anything
I tried
negative.
to get kids to
Yeah.
come down and apply, so I don't know.
Sure.
Are they
Honestly,
taking
I've had a
applications?
couple calls.
Josh has been gone at the Michigan Park Conference this week, and I know
Was it
that
someplace nice?
Oh,
yeah.
Florida. No.
No, but we are taking applications now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, got it, okay.
He hasn't come to me and said anything that he thought would be of concern, so that tells me he's on top of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any committee reports for business? Unscheduled business?
I have one thing, and I mentioned it to Mark and Josh. No, I can't remember his name. Anyway, the stop sign from North End Park is missing. Did they tell you about that?
No.
I noticed it actually 2 or 3 months ago, and I kept meaning to email you, and they said they were going to get one out there, but I haven't seen it yet. So I'm just letting you know
Yeah, I got
that
it.
it's missing.
It'll go back up next week.
Yeah, I mean, the ground's hard, it's frozen, it's not a very busy road.
So
Well, they don't do it by
they
hand,
just didn't take the sign, they just put the whole,
No, the whole thing's gone.
the whole thing's gone.
Yeah, even the post is gone.
Okay.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's one of those things where you start to question your sanity. There was a stop sign here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's well, maybe the city is
Do they take it out for
stop
sport? Do people take it out for sport?
Oh, yeah.
Don't be darned.
I can understand where they would unscrew the sign and take it and leave the post,
Oh, no.
but they're taking the post and everything.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. My bad cousin told me
Camera just
that when he was a teenager, they used to ride around in a car with a baseball bat, and they would go fast past the sign, and the guy would pull the baseball bat out and smack the sign off the pole. And they had a secret storage unit their parents didn't know about that had 400 signs.
I'm sorry.
Not only that, but the pay for that storage unit.
Okay, anything further?
Yes, I had a conversation with Steve Leon for, well over an hour.
John, I wish you had made it to our last meeting. I will get you a copy of the lawsuit information, and then what I advised the rest of the board members in our last meeting is that you do not have to feel obligated to entertain those conversations. he has decided to take it into a legal matter, so therefore it is deferred to his lawyer and our attorney.
Okay.
So stop by and see us and we'll give you a copy of that.
It's just not over.
He's
That's
the one
all.
that wanted to have a legal battle, so therefore we're leaving it.
And I think the last one, she called and asked for all our names and
Yeah.
stuff, so that he knew who was on the Park and Rec board.
So stop by and see us when you get time. We'll give you a copy of that. Okay.
Anything further?
No, but you did a great job.
Well, thank you. So the meeting adjourned at 7:44.